Dome light over here.
All right, so we have a $2 billion new downtown coming to North County, San Diego. We have new new rules for rentals here in San Diego. And of course, we're going to be talking about the housing market. Today, I'm joined by none other than my good friend, Bern McGovern. Bern, how you doing today?
I am doing quite well, Daniel. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, it's always fun to have you on. We've been talking about YouTube together for a long time, back when we had competing channels. I mean, I guess we still technically have competing channels,
Sort
but
of,
it's
yeah.
always, yeah, technically. But the reality is we've collaborated basically since day one, and it's nice that we still have that going. And I think it's probably the collaboration that our fans on YouTube enjoy the most. So always love doing these, man.
Yeah, no, this is great. We obviously go on each other's channels from time to time, and I feel like we bring some pretty good value to people that living to San Diego or planning to move to San Diego. So this should be no different.
That is right. And as always, as we're getting started, let us know where you are tuning in from. We like to know. Let's see. I have some clients that just closed from Canada. We have clients from all across the US, all over the place. Have you had
I don't think
anyone from Canada?
I don't think I've helped a Canadian yet
Hmm.
that I'm aware of, but possibly. So, but yeah, I've had people from Europe, India, obviously, Hawaii. I'm actually might be helping some Hawaii people recently. I know that's United States, but all across the world here. So
Well, yeah. So let us know where you're tuning in from. Star Platinum, our good friend, is tuning in from, of course, Orlando. Star Platinum,
obviously,
just
our
need to
big
say
fan,
hi.
Star Platinum, one of about 4 or 5 people that are always seem to tune into us every week.
And I'm not sure who this is, but Internet is from Carlsbad.
The internet was from Carlsbad. Interesting.
I
Okay.
think maybe if you logged in from LinkedIn or Facebook, there's a secondary thing you have to do.
Oh yeah, gotcha.
That can be what it is. But anyway, for anyone that does not know Mr. Bern McGovern, you can. Oh, I do not. Dang it, I do not. Bern, what? Tell us about yourself.
My name is Bern McGovern. I am also a real estate agent here in San Diego, and I also have a YouTube channel here. If you guys are not familiar, there it is. Living in San Diego with Bern and Courtney. We've been doing this pretty much the same time as Dan has been doing it. So we've been adding a lot of videos every week and just kind of showing what our favorite things about living here in San Diego.
Yeah, I like this one that you just released. Affordable neighborhoods in San Diego. I think that's a fun one. I'm actually kind of
Yeah, and
interested.
affordable is like kind of it depends what you mean on affordable, but under $1 million is what we're going for here. So,
Air
which
quotes
is not
for affordable.
affordable to a lot of people.
And I think
Exactly.
that probably is along the lines of like starter neighborhoods in San Diego. That's kind of the way that I look at it a lot of times as well. But
For
today
sure.
we're going to start off by talking about some coming soon news to San Diego. And I really, really enjoyed this headline that there is a new $2 billion downtown coming to North County, San Diego. It's specifically in San Marcos. And Burton, I know you've done a video on San Marcos in the past, so you probably have some pretty interesting insight on this. Um, but I think this is great. I look, so a couple things to kind of break this down. For one, as far as location, it's a little bit inland. It's kind of surrounded by Escondido, San Marcos, Carlsbad, Oceanside. The thought here, I think, is really to have an area that not competes with downtown San Diego, obviously, because it is very different, but to have a small downtown area in North County, San Diego. And I think it's going to help lift up a lot of these other areas as well. And we're talking 3,400 residential units, which the grand scheme of things is not enough to solve our housing crisis, housing dilemma here in San Diego, which we're definitely going to talk about later today because there's just a crazy thing that we are dealing with right now. But if you look at like we've been talking about Three Roots as being one of the biggest developments in San Diego for a long time. And what is that? A total of 1,600 homes, 1,800 homes. So this is
I mean, it sounded like a lot when they were building it, but in the scheme of things, we need a lot more than that. So,
exactly. Exactly. So yeah, what are your thoughts? You like this here? You think this is going to be
well,
big in San Marcos?
the funny thing is, Seabreeze Properties is the same builder as Merge 56. That's right by my house. So,
Ooh.
and where exactly is this going to be in San Marcos? Is this
So
by
this
Cal State San Marcos, or where are they planning for this?
yes, Cal State University of San Marcos. So this is North City is what it's called. I think what's also interesting about this is it's a downtown, but they're really, I think, going after the like college students. They're saying in the articles, and they're saying that they're actually trying to promote themselves to everybody, but it seems like it's mostly for college students or people that have graduated and kind of still live in the area. So I think it is going to have a
That would
very
be
useful vibe.
State San Marcos. If they could make that more of like, it might end up be more of like a college town over there rather than
Yeah,
a town
that's
for
what it's going to feel like.
families and that sort of thing. But I still think it'll be a great thing to have. And it's funny, I know this developer. I didn't know that they were the ones that are doing this one. So
Yeah, and there's multiple developers. So I know Shea Homes and Lennar, they have some I believe single family homes that they are building. There's going to be 345,000 square feet of retail space, a hotel with 250 rooms, 1 million square feet of office and labs. So it's pretty interesting. And as far as like the businesses that they're going to have there, they're really promoting kind of smaller businesses and
okay,
like locally owned businesses as opposed to kind of big box stores and things like that.
okay. I mean, that's the way things are going. I mean, big box stores are definitely not the wave of the future here, probably, especially in San Diego. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. So has that been approved, or it's still early on in the process there? I guess.
Oh, they've been developing it for a little while now. So I've done maybe a year ago. I did a video on this in the past. So I'm not sure if all 100% of it has been approved, but they've already started developing a lot of this stuff.
Okay, interesting. Like, it's
Yeah,
not. Is this not part of like the Mission Circle thing? This is a completely different part of this, right?
exactly. This is called North City.
North City. Okay, got it. Interesting.
Yep. Cool. Well, let's keep going with the news articles. The coming soon for San Diego. I thought this was pretty interesting. First Republic Bank is now Chase. So they was bought out. It was one of the most recent failing banks. It was bought out by JP Morgan Chase. And what does it mean for San Diego customers? Because they have multiple offices. What I think is interesting about this, Burn, you and I both know that this is the bank that has offered the best rates by far for people that were purchasing in Three Roots.
Oh, really? At Three Roots, I didn't know that. Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. I mean,
They had
that'll a lot of people. I mean, Chase gets decent rates too. So I don't know what the difference will be when rates wise will go. But have you heard anything differently?
Well, they're saying that everything is going to remain as usual moving forward, but I just think it's interesting because a lot of times it's really hard to have better rates than what the builder's lender has. So, for
Hmm.
example, Shea Homes, they were recommending First Republic over their own lender because they're like, you can't beat this out. They have a program that's too good to be true. So I thought that was interesting. Of course, it was too good to be true because they couldn't stay afloat. So, but whoever has that program now is set in place, I guess.
Yeah, and honestly, the companies that have the best rates, they do fluctuate. Sometimes certain banks, especially the big banks, like if they want more of something, like they want more refis or they want more jumbos, they will reduce their rates lower than everybody else just to get that. That's why I talk to my mortgage broker all the time, and he's like, "Okay, who's the best one this month?" And he tells me like, "Okay, so Citi's actually the best rates right now, and they can close fast, or it's U.S. Bank, or it's PNC Bank." So it's funny how they can change on the daily over here. So
There has been a lot going on behind the scenes with national lenders and small lenders, and especially credit unions over the last year. So to get some of that behind the scenes information has been very interesting. Sometimes, like just in the beginning of a quarter, they have more of a budget for um,
yeah,
loan programs that are essentially not making them money or even losing them money for specific reasons. Like there's so much, it's so complex, everything that goes into
yeah.
that.
For a while, was it Mission Fed was giving like really good rates, like these bonus rates to everybody, but now they kind of I think they've cut back on that. But
Yeah.
it does change constantly. So just if you use one bank last time you bought, just shop around and see where else you can get better rates for. So
Yeah, some very good advice there. I thought this was pretty interesting. If you don't know, Nathan Fletcher has he didn't resign. He was I guess he was like booted off, right? So I should probably know this a little bit.
yeah, I think he was.
So essentially what happened, this is very interesting because he was basically a shoe-in for Senate. And he got himself in a situation where, let's see, I'm reading from the report here. Fletcher had inappropriate behavior with a former MTS public relations officer who accused Fletcher of kissing and groping her in a lawsuit filed a little while ago in San Diego Superior Court. So this is
Oh,
this is big news for San Diego because he's been a big part of our local government for a long time.
yeah. I mean, that's big news over here. Hopefully, it doesn't affect things too much here, but I feel like you always hear something about these and with politicians throughout the country. So you never know.
Yep. Bern, have you seen this? San Diego approved new strict renter protections. Here's what it means for you if you are a landlord or a tenant.
I have not read this one yet. What is it? What is it saying? It's stricter for the renter or stricter for the landlord or both?
Well, it's more protections for the renters, and
Okay.
specifically what this is talking about is essentially if there's a situation to where the renter is forced out of the house because the landlord wants to do upgrades or something like that, then they essentially have to give them a credit or a lump sum worth of 3 months of rent. So
3 months. What was it
yeah,
before? I don't even know what the rule was
I don't know
before.
what it was before, but I don't know if there was anything in place for that before. But 3 full months of rent is what they have to offer to them.
And rents are not cheap here. So I mean, in my neighborhood, they're like $6,000. So that could be $18,000 you would have to give somebody if you were to do that. So,
Yeah, it
whew,
adds up. It adds up. And I look, I think at the end of the day, it's easy to want these rental rules because it's difficult for people to keep up with what's happening with inflation and rent prices. And I get that. But I think a lot of times, a lot of these rent protections that sound really good actually have a lot of negative consequences as well. So
sure.
I see some more things coming down the line, but I would just recommend people read through and actually look at it with a critical eye because a lot of times there are maybe even more negatives than there are positives with some of these.
For sure. Yeah.
And then we're going to start getting into
In California.
it is. It's really hard to be a landlord. And I know people that have lost tens to, of thousands of dollars because of renters, destroying their property. And it's really difficult to evict people. There are a lot of challenges involved with it. And I think more often than not, it hurts the little guy, not the big guy, like the
Sure.
people with maybe one or two or three rentals, not someone that
Are there
has.
any landlords out there that own property in San Diego? I'm curious to see how your experience has been here.
Good.
Good experience, bad experience. I'd like to know.
So there are two main things that we're going to talk about with the market right now. One is going to be the lack of inventory, and that's up next because that's
I feel like we never talk about that, damn lack of inventory in San Diego.
we never talk about it, but the reality is it's the lowest inventory that we've ever had in San Diego at this time of year right
Is
now.
it really the lowest ever?
It's ever been
Oh,
this
wow.
time of year. So
Feels like it.
it sure does. But before we get into that, let's talk about the mortgage rates and the Fed funds rate. So, we've been in this situation for the last, I don't know what, year where the Fed funds rate has been increased and increased and increased. And
Sure.
that has had a long-term effect on increasing mortgage interest rates. So they're not directly correlated, but in the long term, they are correlated. And essentially what's happening now is Jerome Powell is going to announce tomorrow whether they are going to increase the Fed funds rate. And here's the
What are
thing.
you hearing on that? Are you saying they're going to, or they're not going to, or not sure?
So the expectation is they're going to they're going to increase it by 1/4%, which is a lot less than it. Like most of the time, it's 0.5% or 0.75% is what we've seen over and over again for the last 12 months. If it increases by 1/4%, and then the expectation is, I think there's a bigger impact on what he says afterwards than what the actual raise is. So if the conversation afterwards is, look, we've had too much of an impact and we've seen these banks failing and we need to tone it back and maybe stop the rate increases for a little while, that's kind of the expectation. So there's big news because this is going to happen tomorrow. We're going to find out what's happening. If there is an increase, just remember that's not necessarily a negative that we're looking for, but we're looking to hear what he's going to say afterwards. And hopefully he's going to say something along the lines of, we need to kind of slow down or even stop or pause these rates for a little while because we've been so aggressive over the last 12 months that it's had some negative impacts.
Well, it's funny what impacts it has because it hasn't really slowed the market here too much. I mean, if the inventory was higher, it probably would have slowed it. But there's like no, like a lot of people just are not selling because they don't want to like lose their interest rate. We've talked about this multiple times, so we don't have to get too much into it. But it it feels pretty busy out there as far as people. Like, I put an offer on a property over the weekend, and I think it has like 10 plus offers on it.
Yeah.
So because there's only about, one or two houses to choose from sometimes. So it's funny what's going on out there. Not funny, but
It's definitely not funny. And as I say that, I'm kind of laughing because sometimes it gets so crazy that all you can do is just kind of like laugh a little bit. But this article that came out, I think, is very indicative of how we feel again. And we didn't want to get back in this situation, but housing market insanity has returned. And it's exactly what you just talked about. Like, we can sum up a very long conversation into what you just said is Jerome Powell was on record by saying he wants to basically break the housing market. He wants to bring prices down again by increasing the Fed funds rate. And what I think basically nobody expected is what the actual result of them raising the Fed funds rate over a long period of time was. And it wasn't bringing prices down. We all thought it'd bring prices down at some level. What ended up happening was the rates were increased by so much that anyone that was maybe considering selling so that they can get a bigger house or they could
sure.
move to a new area or get a nicer house. None of those people want to move right now. And I'm having conversations with people that are like, yeah, why would I ever sell my house? I'm at a 2.75% interest rate. I'm never going to get that again. I'd rather build up my house a little bit more, maybe add an extra room, maybe add a second level, and then at some point buy another house in the future. And now I know not everyone has the capability of owning two homes here in San Diego. Like, just owning one house is difficult enough for a lot of
Sure.
people, but those aspirations are there for a lot of people. And that is exactly what we're seeing right now.
So what's say hypothetically rates go down to 4.5%. Will that get more people to sell? Probably, but then more people want to buy. So we're going to be like, prices will continue just to go up, won't they? Like, what's the solution here? I don't feel like there is a perfect way to handle this at all.
Well, there's one solution to bring prices down, and that's to build more. And that's the thing.
Well, yes, that would help.
We can't
But
get around that. We can't
yes,
put band-aids on this. There has to be more housing, and that's a long-term solution. And again, like, we're repeating things that we talk about a lot because it's all coming together right now. But when you build new developments in San Diego, like North City that we were just talking about a little while ago, they've been trying to build that out for decades. And it's been in this planning process and all this process for decades. So when we see huge new developments coming to San Diego, we see it easily 10 to 15 years ahead of time, and we're not seeing the developments that we need. And so this is a long-term play. This is a long-term solution, is what we need to see, and we're not seeing it. So, the bad news for everybody is prices are going to continue to go up because there aren't enough homes. There's barely enough homes right now for the people that are basically forced to buy new homes, let alone people that have the ability to become a first-time home buyer or something like that.
yeah. I mean, and the city doesn't make it easy for people to build homes either, too. So the process to do it just takes an absolute eternity. And then other people fight it, and it just gets delayed and delayed and delayed. That Merge 56 thing that had been planned for like almost 20 years too, and it's still like some of the homes got built, but the actual mixed-use shopping center is just a dirt lot right now, and still just waiting to be built on. So
So crazy. I mean,
yeah,
I just learned the other day, just to build an ADU on a property. Let's say you buy a house, you want to build an ADU or accessory dwelling unit, like basically a mini house on your lot for a family member, or to rent it out, or to live in that and to rent out the main house. You essentially need to plan for, at minimum, 14 to 15 months from selecting the company to build it for you and them actually getting the permits and building that ADU. So just things take a long time, especially when the government.
because like before it would take you like 5 years to build something like that. Now like they fast tracked it, and it only takes that much longer to do it. So
Yeah,
nothing's fast here in San Diego.
nothing is fast. And depending on like what city you're in, it could easily go from 14 to 20 or 30 or whatever. Like, it can get extended out pretty significantly. So Scuba Pilot, I don't know why that was so hard for me to say, especially with that photo there. I like that photo. Scuba Pilot 2000 is asking, if the rates change or the announcement is impactful, how much time will it take for local mortgage rates to be affected? That's a great question. So he's asking about, if the Fed funds rate tomorrow is raised, how long, or isn't raised or whatever, if it's going to have an impact on mortgage interest rates, how long does that take? And the answer is, I mean, it can have an impact immediately. I mean, the same day we can see rates go up or go down.
Although a lot of times they do already assume that it's going to go up, and they've already made the changes like 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
So a lot of times when this happens, you don't see it the day it happens. It's already kind of happened. And if it's actually better news than expected, they actually go down.
Yeah.
So, you usually don't see a big jump the day that he announces it typically. So,
Well, so the caveat of that would be, I think what can be more impactful is what Jerome Powell says after they
sure.
raise the rates. So
Yeah.
if what they say is like very explicitly, hey, we're going to stop raising rates, then that can bring prices down, that can bring mortgage rates down. Or if he explicitly says, look, we're not done. We have that goal for inflation to be at, what was it, 2%, 4%? We have that goal of inflation and we're not going to stop until we get there. Then I think we probably can see rates go up pretty much immediately. Now, whether how much they're going to go up, obviously, who knows? But yeah, I think it's mostly based off of the speculation of what's going to happen in the future, as opposed to what's happening today or right now.
And is that you, Kyle? I feel like I remember that being your name, Scuba Pilot, but I forget. So remind me if it is.
Scuba pilot Kyle. All right, that was a great question. So, as far as the housing market, and again, no surprise here, this is what we're talking about: housing inventory. So, this is a chart from 2012 to 2023 for San Diego County. How many homes are for sale? And it can be a little bit challenging to read it this way for the reason that every single year we're going to have fewer homes at the end of the year and through the holidays. And we're going to have the most homes in early summer, usually. So, like May, June, July. And so, when you look at it this way, you see all these peaks and valleys. It's hard to kind of make sense of. What I really like to do is this year over year. And this is what we're seeing right now. Now, we talk about this all the time, Bern. The data is almost always delayed. So this is
Always.
showing, yeah, this is showing how many homes were available in April, whereas we're in May now. And basically, you can set this as a straight line or even coming down a little bit. We're just under 2,000 homes for sale in San Diego County. And I've been talking to my team. I've been talking to you guys. What I've been saying is about a month ago, we're kind of at a crucial point. Homes, the amount of homes for sale has been steadily decreasing throughout the course of the year. And if we don't start to see more homes hitting the market, if we don't start to see inventory start to increase by mid-May, we're going to go from having a challenging market to a brutal market for home buyers. And that is exactly what we're experiencing right now.
Ugh, I thought we were done with this, but it's back. It's back again.
It's back. I mean, this is, like I said, this is the lowest point that we've ever had of inventory in San Diego County in May. It's never been this low. We have 2,000 homes for sale in a county of 3.35 million people. We need closer to 6 or 8 or 10,000 homes. So we're just nowhere near making that happen. And at the same time, a lot of buyers have finally just gotten used to the idea that mortgage interest rates are around 6%. There's no more sticker shock. It's like, that's what we need to do to buy a house. So
What I have noticed from, just being in this business for a little while, people have very short memories. Like,
yeah, sure.
6 months, a year goes by, then they get used to something and then just kind of move forward. So, I mean, the interest rates were not always going to be 2.75%, and they're not
Yeah.
always going to be 6% either. So, I just think people just get used to something and then they just kind of move on with their lives with what they got. So, there's not
Yeah.
really another option now besides just waiting, which a lot of people are doing. So,
I completely agree. And was it Kyle?
yep, it is, Kyle.
What's going on?
Good to hear from you.
Cool. So what exactly are you seeing out there? I know you just said that you have an offer in or had an offer in, and there were 10 plus offers. Is that regular?
Yeah, I mean, the ones I do see get a lot of offers. They either price them low or it's just like a super attractive property. Like this one property I was have in Escondido. It's an absolutely just beautiful, beautiful property. And they priced like I looked at the comps, and the comps like, okay, they priced about where the comps are showing it. But then I was trying to find a house similar to that house, and it was like literally impossible to find
Yeah.
like a replica of that house. So I was like, okay, this one's going to have multiple offers. And I was hoping it was not going to go as high as it was, but it appears to be going relatively high. So we might get priced out of it, but we'll see what happens. I'm still keeping my fingers crossed. But And then there's other ones like I still see some properties go into escrow and then fall out of escrow. Like I had a client buy a condo in Rancho Penasquitas that was in escrow for like 535, and then it went through. I think it went through like two other buyers. Then we got it for 508. So don't get super upset if you lose out at the first round. If someone just wants stupid crazy on the price, a lot of times those things fall through and they come back on the market. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit more of that, especially in the coming months.
Yeah, that's a good point. Every single year, I get one of those offers accepted. An offer where we were second place, someone beat us out, they end up falling out of escrow for whatever reason. And now not only do we get our offer accepted at the lower price that we were at, but sometimes we even get a further discount based on inspections that they had or some other appraisal being too high, something like that. But you actually made a really good point, Bern, as far as looking for comps for specific properties. And this is exactly what I'm running into right now. So I just put an offer in right before this show for a house that we saw over the weekend. We went to the open house, and the open house always had people in it, but it wasn't like a crazy amount of people walking through. So I'm like, oh, great. I think we're in a situation. This house is not completely remodeled top to bottom. It's been single owners forever, and they put new flooring and painted the walls, but still had all old electrical. It still needed a fridge. The stove was like 1,000 years old. It needed a lot of work. And so when I'm looking at the price, I'm like, all right, this is probably about right. But then when I try and look at comps, I can't find it. And I forget the reason I can't find it is because I've been working with these clients for 6 months. We've only seen one other house pop up that even resembled this house. So all the comps that are out there are not, even though there are comps that are like fully remodeled, they're not the size. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles that we want in a property as this one. So it makes me a little bit more concerned than I've been in the past as far as like what's going to happen with appraisal. And should we
I think there's going to be a lot of appraisal issues in the next couple of months. I have a feeling, just because, like you said, there haven't been enough homes sold, and then trying to find, and if there's not a lot of houses sold, how are you supposed to find one that kind of justifies the price of this one? It's more just like, what are you willing to pay, which is what we were doing a year and a half ago. So it can be, it's frustrating for home buyers. You're just trying to get them a house, and like I had clients that literally flew down to see this one house, and they absolutely loved it, and now they might just get priced out of it, which is unfortunate because they were so happy, like it actually lived up to the expectations of the photos and all that stuff, and then they saw it, like love it, and then already had like 6 offers. So
where's this house at?
This was in Escondido.
Okay. Yeah, that's exactly the situation I'm with my clients. We just submitted this offer. I was like so excited for them. We came in very strong. We did a lot of things really well.
Was it?
No, it's not. It's not. It's in San Carlos. So it's definitely different parts of San Diego, but I just want it to work out so bad. And it's going to be an uphill battle. Now, you and I, like, we have a track record. We've won a lot of, like, our percent of winning for these types of situations is high considering, but it doesn't matter when you're up against 10, 15, 20 other.
Yeah, I actually think we could have won this. It's just like, and now it's just going beyond their budget. That's kind of the problem. So, which, you can only go up so high sometimes. So.
Friend of the show comes in with a crystal ball prediction. Derek, we need to have you on sometime when Bern's on as well. We'll get the 3 of us on here. Fed will raise 0.25% tomorrow and then pause for a while. What they say will be everything for how markets react, though. Last several times they've hiked, mortgage rates have dropped the same day by about 0.25%.
Well, there you go. Even if they say they're going to raise it, sometimes it drops. So
yeah. So I've learned a lot of what I know about mortgage rates and how it's affected by Fed funds rate from Derek Evans. So thank you, Derek, for all of the information.
He knows a lot about that.
Really appreciate it. But yeah, it's, as far as this market goes, like, everything's happening right now. I have some clients that are under contract, and we got an offer accepted for $80,000 under the asking price. But every situation is different. So you can't just say a one size fits all approach. That house had been on the market for 3 weeks. So of course you have some more wiggle room, some more negotiation power. But if you're seeing a single family house in, especially the city of San Diego or in San Diego County, single family home that is competitively priced, it's probably going to get some heavy competition. It's just, it's tough to not be up against that right now. And I am a little bit concerned as far as what we're going to see over the next couple of months. Because if that's happening now and it's not getting better and we aren't even in the peak season yet, it's going to be a slaughter out there this summer. Is
I
kind of
think
what
this is kind of the peak season. I mean, April, like at least by me, like
yeah.
March, April, May is probably the busiest, and June, part of
Yeah.
June too. Because this is like a lot of the area over by me is like school centric. So once school's almost out, that's when it starts to pick up, and then it kind of dies off in like August. So
Yep. Yeah, that's a good point. I guess we're starting it now because
I
what's
think we're kind of right in the middle of it right now.
now
So
closes in June, so that makes sense.
yeah.
All right. Well, predictions. What do you think is going to happen between now and the end of the year?
I don't know. I feel like I'm so tired of predictions of this housing market. I think inventory will still be low throughout the summer, and then it might pick up a little bit in like September, October. Yeah, because that's when people like kind of stop looking for houses. So I think it will pick up a little bit. I'm not sure. I don't think prices are going to go down. If anything, maybe they stay flat. In the popular areas, I think they could still continue to go up. So I don't think it's going to be a dramatic, 25% increase, but could we see, 5 to 10% raises in certain neighborhoods? It's possible.
Yeah. And I think there will probably be more of a difference than we've seen in the past from how much the single family homes appreciate versus the
Mhm.
condos, townhomes, because I'm seeing definitely not as much demand on the condos, townhomes as I'm seeing on the single family homes right now.
Sure.
And I'm not, I mean, I could speculate on why I think that may be, but I don't really know exactly why that's happening, but it seems to be a more negotiating power on those attached properties and detached properties.
I think that's kind of always been the case, though. Like they've always like single families have always been like a little bit hotter commodity here in San Diego. I also think the price point between like 500 to 1.5 is like red hot.
Yeah.
And then once you hit like 2 million and above, it's not quite as crazy. But obviously, there's a lot less people trying to buy $2 million houses versus, $1 million house here in San Diego.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good points. Cool, man. Well, hey, like we don't have a lot of other questions coming in, so we might end it a little bit early tonight and go hang out with our families. So
That sounds good to me. I think I'm going to do a live next week on my channel too. So look out for that.
awesome. Thanks for being on, Bern. We appreciate you, and we'll see you soon.
All right, sounds good. Bye, guys.